it.
It's like a family. Well, is it true?
It's nothing to get excited about. I'm just going to go over and talk to them. And anyway, my French isn't as good as it used to be. We'll see.
Well, I think it's a brilliant idea. He's a smart man, Jean-Pierre. I'm very impressed.
You've changed your mind.
Come on. I'll take you into town and buy you dinner.
How well did Warren manage the problems facing his business?
I don't think he managed the problems well. Yes, he did get his money. He did secure the future of the racecourse. But he should never have left it so late to do that. He should have addressed the problems much earlier on in the process.
What would you have advised him to do?
If I'd been involved earlier, I would have advised him to spend a lot more time on some strategic thinking with his team, made his team recognise the issues much earlier in the process, and I would have brought in a facilitator rather than an expert. A facilitator to draw the issues out and to draw the solutions out of the team themselves.
Do you think the managers of this business were a good team?
No, I don't think they were a good team. They were too personally motivated. They weren't really motivated in the interests of the team itself. And they weren't prepared to take responsibility for the whole team.
How can managers get the best from their teams?
Managers get the best from their teams by firstly making them take responsibility, sharing the responsibility. Secondly, by not avoiding conflict but allowing healthy debate. And thirdly, by rewarding the team for its performance rather than the individuals within the team.
Good evening and welcome to World Business Update. In tonight's programme, the IT revolution in India, the cycling revolution across the globe, and bullying at work. How big a problem is it? A British executive who was consistently bullied and abused by her boss has been awarded £250,000 in compensation. Experts claim that bullying at work is a problem throughout the business world. In a moment, we'll talk to a representative of the company which lost today's case. But first, let's hear from the executive, Lorraine Dickinson, who spoke to our reporter at her home in London.
You have won a major victory today. How do you feel?
Relieved. I'm glad it's finally over. I was able to put my point across at last. I'm just very happy we finally reached a solution.
How did the problem start?
When I first joined the company 5 years ago, there were frequent heated arguments between my boss and one of my colleagues. He shouted at her, criticised her in front of other people. But nobody was prepared to speak up or do anything about it. It was a horrible atmosphere to work in.
Didn't anybody say anything?
Well, yes, I did. I mean, eventually I made an official complaint. But the Human Resources Director said that he could do nothing unless my colleague complained in person, and she refused to do that. And then one day, my boss started shouting at her again, and I felt I had to do something, so I told him what I thought.
So, after you explained your point of view, did he see things differently?
Not at all. He just started bullying me instead of her. He would either ignore me completely or insult me in front of other people. It got to the point where I felt physically threatened. And at that point, I knew I had to get out.
So you resigned?
That's right. I just wanted to get away. The Human Resources Director still refused to take any action against my boss because he was such a senior member of staff. So I just decided to leave. Then the union representative told me that if I sued the company, if I took them to court, I'd probably win.
And of course you did sue, and you did win. What would you say to other people in your position?
I'd say you should always be treated with respect. Stand up for your rights, and don't be bullied.
Lorraine Dickinson, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now, back to the studio.
With me now is Jay Nightingale, a spokesperson for Lorraine Dickinson's former employer. So, Ms. Nightingale, have you fired the executive who caused all this trouble?
As soon as we hear about problems of this kind, we always speak to all the people concerned and then do as much as we can to solve the problem.
That's not what Lorraine Dickinson says. She claims you took no notice.
Our policy is to hear what both sides have to say and then work out how to proceed.
So, has he been fired?
The view we take is...
Has he been fired?
No, he hasn't been fired. Our policy is...
Why not?
At the moment, we're looking very carefully at the way we manage disputes between colleagues.
It's a bit late for that. Your company has just been found guilty in court and fined £250,000.
Well, we're planning to appeal against that decision. Look, all kinds of problems occur between people who work together. It happens every day, in every city, all over the world. We're in a very competitive business where senior managers have to give a strong lead. Now, sometimes people misunderstand that. It may be that they can't take the pressure, or perhaps they'd just be better off working in a less challenging environment. There are many factors to take into account.
But sadly, we're out of time on that one. Jay Nightingale, thanks very much. After the break, on World Business Update, we'll be looking at the IT revolution in India. Join us then. Now, on World Business Update, we're going to take a look at the phenomenal growth of the IT industry in India over the past decade, and at some of the specialized services developed in India which are now supporting corporations around the globe. In 1991, the Indian government opened the country up to global markets for the first time since independence. The results of that change have been remarkable. Foreign investment in India has grown from almost nothing to more than $2 billion last year. Inflation is down from 14% to just 4%. Transport links between the capital, New Delhi, and the commercial centre, Mumbai, have vastly improved. There are now 22 flights a day between the two cities. And there are more than 3 times as many car manufacturers, making more than 500,000 cars between them every year. So, business is booming. But the biggest news comes from the IT sector, where a major new export industry has emerged. India now has a software industry worth an estimated $8.3 billion. More than a third of America's Fortune 500 companies now use Indian software houses. But one of the most interesting trends is the growth of back-office IT services. Many Indian companies now receive data from their clients all around the world. They use that information to update the databases of their clients, even though those clients may be on the other side of the world. For example, doctors in the USA often record medical notes on dictation machines. Other members of staff then have to listen to the recordings and type the information into the hospital database. Now, those voice recordings can be sent via the internet to India, where costs are much lower. There, the information is entered into the hospital's database by medically qualified staff, and it's available back in the USA within a few hours. Legal records and databases are updated in a similar way by properly qualified Indian lawyers. They work closely with their American counterparts on the other side of the world, but the work is done at a fraction of the cost. The factors behind this growth are easy to see. Labour costs in India are low. There is a large English-speaking workforce of highly educated and highly qualified people. Many of them have good IT skills. Also, the Indian government is now offering tax incentives to companies developing call centre services. And it looks as though the sector will continue to expand. Last year, there were about 100,000 call centres worldwide, and that figure will probably increase to 300,000 in the next 2 years. By that time, the industry will employ more than 18 million people across the globe. But if you've been looking at a computer screen all day, you might like to take a slow, leisurely ride home on a bike. After the break, we're going to look at the growing importance of cycling. Stay with us.
By the year 2025, more than 5 billion people, half of humanity, will live in cities. Unless we make better use of the bicycle in the future, those cities could be very congested places. This simple machine is one of the most successful consumer products ever made. The basic design has been modified, of course, and modern bikes have many special features. But fundamentally, the classic bicycle design hasn't changed very much in the last 100 years. As a product, the bike has got everything. It's economical, it's very reliable, and it's ecologically friendly. That's why I love it. It's cheap to run, doesn't go wrong, and it doesn't harm the environment. It's even quite comfortable. That's why bikes are so popular. Cycling in German cities has increased by 50% since 1972, and in Holland, bicycles are used for about 25% of all journeys. And if cycling seems like too much of an effort, don't worry. Bikes are getting lighter all the time. This one weighs only 9.2 kilos. And I'm getting a bit lighter too. Bye.
That's it from World Business Update. Goodbye.